Paris, chérie, mon beau Paris, c'est tout.
Hello there and welcome to Paris Set Me Free photo tutorials. Here you can see some extremely strong backlighting. In French, well actually in English they call it contre-jour, which means against the day. You're shooting against the day, which means that you're shooting into the sun. And you've got some sort of subject in between you and the sun, hopefully, which gives you certain nice effects. For example, these long shadows coming towards you, or turning whatever is in between you and the sun, if you don't do anything to your camera settings, normally turning it into a silhouette. You can see here it's almost black. There's just a tiny bit of detail here in the straps on her shoes. And also another effect with people you often get is that you get a very nice sort of halo effect, which with the sun shining through their hair. If you're like me and losing most of it, it's not so effective. This is one of a series that I took. It's at Abbesse. Let me show you where it is. Now, maybe you can see there. There's the Abbesse in Montmartre metro station, one of the deepest metro stations in Paris, and it's also got very beautiful Art Nouveau entrance or exit. There's a carousel next to it, and this is where I normally start my Montmartre photo tours. I just wanted to show you this because you can see what's happened. The sun is streaming down this street here. You can get a little idea of it streaming down here, and this woman's feet were around about here. So it was early in the morning. That's when you need to get there if you want that effect. And really magical lighting, skimming the edges of the houses, giving some very nice effects. You know, turning every little bit of peeling paint into giving it a long shadow and really bringing out the texture. So this is a great place, by the way. Let me just quickly flick you around. You've got this really interesting church here. There it is, and with some interesting features which I won't go into. And yeah, that's it basically. So it was there. This is one I took. Here's another one. I thought that was good. Here's another one. There's a pigeon following this woman, which is funny, you know, striding out. But the woman's legs aren't too great. Her shadow's not too fantastic either. It's very nice when you've got people walking. Often it's nice to have them striding out. And lo and behold, I got one finally. Actually, this one was before this one. There you can see she's heading off. It was really one of those moments when I certainly wasn't expecting it, and many of the shots you're not expecting, and you just got to go with it. You know, forget whatever your camera's doing, just lift it up to your eye, take the shot. If you had it, you know, if you'd messed around with the exposure, if the shutter speed was wrong, whatever, tough luck, because that moment isn't going to wait for you. And that's one good reason for having your camera on a more or less acceptable bunch of settings all the time, including, if you're like me, walking around with your right hand and your right finger on the shutter button and your left hand cupping the lens, so that at any given point you can slam that camera up to your eye, do something with the lens if you want to zoom in or out, and frame it at the same time, and bam, get your shot. This is what it turned into, and I'll tell you what I've done now. Obviously, apart from brightening it up a bit, the main thing I've done is cropped. And the nice thing about this photograph, if I need to say it, but I will say it because it's quite important, and it made it a great photograph for me, was the pigeon echoing, mimicking almost the striding out of the woman. You've literally got her legs in this sort of upside down V, and then if you look at the pigeon, as much as a pigeon can have, the pigeon has got its legs in exactly the same position, practically, striding out there. She's striding out, and they've both got their little accompanying shadows. Of course, she hasn't got as much of a shadow. She's chopped off around about the waist. But if I had included all of her shadow, then this funny little repetition of the pigeon mimicking her, if you like, would have been lost because it would have been too small. So if you look at what I've done Look at look at the distance between her front toes and the edge there. How much of this bench is showing, and then look at the original. So I'd left myself plenty of space. I mean, I didn't have enough time to get the pigeon's head away from and out of the lamppost there, but I don't think this shot wouldn't have existed if I'd waited for that, or even if I'd got it beforehand. Her legs wouldn't have been striding out so nicely. So you've got that lovely V there and the V there. I've left enough to chop it, but because I wanted to get rid of this third of the picture just isn't that amazing, or this quarter at least if we drew it down there. Also, ideally the bottom of the picture would have been nicer to be much closer to their feet. Having said that, this bench was useful in the end because it was able to close off this corner. Otherwise there would have been a massive concrete there and no sort of logical closing of this, whereas in fact I've managed to leave just enough of it to close off this corner with again a typical Parisian bench, not just a dark strip but actually the bit of metal that holds the planks together, and a couple of blobby dark bits here, here and here, which is nice because that closes off, these two here close off this corner, which are probably very soft shadows of a tree overhead. Then again there's plenty of signs here. You've got the cobblestones in the distance, you've got 3 uprights, you've got a bollard, you've got a big fat lamppost, you've got a tree with a typical great grill around the tree. Even her heels have gone quite bright because of the sun shining from behind them. It's quite funny. And perhaps the only thing that could have made this more pleasing for me is, well, I said to myself, the 2 feet and the pigeon are slap bang in the middle horizontally of the picture, which theoretically isn't as good as it could be. But you can't pick and choose. You can't apply rules to shots to the point where you exclude it because it doesn't fit a rule, whereas in fact the shot is marvellous. So there was no way. It was just a tiny regret. These 2 could have been lower, but if they had been lower, well, maybe the top would have been no good. Maybe she was wearing some awfully coloured flowery jacket or something, which would have completely messed up the shot. So, or maybe there was some, there may well have been some litter bins there, a car, So in the end, I really like this shot for its humour. There's a real purposefulness to her striding away there. She's got her bag. Her bag's at this angle. It's not hanging down vertically, which makes you think, she's striding with purpose. Her scarf is even following that as well. It's almost as though the bag and the scarf in particular are billowing out behind her as she rushes off to the metro, and there he is doing the same thing. I'd love to think that he was actually mimicking her, this purposeful young Parisian lady. So that's it for this one. Absolutely unplanned, and many of the best shots are, so keep your eyes open. And funnily enough, this day was extremely rich for those sort of shots. I'll be publishing another video, which is, or 2 or 3, because I had a great day that day, capturing all sorts of things, and some of my favourites weren't planned at all. So that's it for today, for that video. Thanks very much. Do visit the blog or the website, blog at parissetmefree.blogspot.com for a high quality version of this shot. Thanks a lot and see you next time.
Depuis que je suis à Paris, le jour et la nuit, je suis gris. J'ai compris la douceur de vivre. Je suis fou de joie, je suis ivre. Depuis que je suis à Paris.